So this is the official welcome. Welcome to Satsang. I'm happy to be with you here and welcome all the friends around the world who are joining us tonight. For many of you in Europe, it's morning or midday. And as we had troubles the last time with the sound again, I just need a little confirmation that you can hear. So if you can send a message like this, if you can hear. If you cannot hear, can you send a message like this? Thank you.
It's a little delayed, so.
Yeah. So why are we here? We're actually here for a very, very simple reason. To remember who we always have been. And it may be a strange thing to even consider that we forget that. But most of the time, that includes me as a person, most of the time if we're kind of hooked in our personality, we identify with something that comes and goes. And that's where suffering comes in, because when it goes, we suffer, and when it comes, we are happy. So happiness and sadness. And in the last sessions, we started with the Ching from LaoTzu, and it's the wisdom that was written down many hundred years ago, and it's so crisp and so clear and so timeless, and it's a pointer that just goes very direct. Now, in the last sessions, which means the first verses of LaoTzu basically speak the truth. And then later, he comes and explains how we cover the truth, how we overlook the truth, how we manage to kind of deny the truth of who we are. For that, just as a pointer, and please don't believe me until you know it and have experienced it, is that perhaps when we look deep enough inside, we see or sense beyond our sensory experience. Because our sensory experience usually happens through going to the object. You see something, and your attention goes to the object that you see, rather than receiving the visual impression and experience it inside. Same with sounds. We listen to somebody and their attention goes to the somebody. We don't listen to that which resonates within. Same with smell and taste and touch. Welcome. We need one more chair. Oh, it's there? Okay. Can you relate to that? That our attention in day-to-day life is always outside, very seldom inside. And that's why the truth is so easily overlooked, because we look for it somewhere. And when we grow up, first we believe it's kind of in the success and in the money and in the material wealth and in the right relationship. And then when we get a little older, we become seekers of the inner, and it's the same fallacy. We seek something that perhaps in spiritual circles is called enlightenment or freedom or liberation. And it is the same fallacy, because we have a goal of reaching somewhere where we think we should reach to, in order to, whatever you look for, in order to be, thank you, to be happy, in order to love, in order to be at peace. And it's a funny situation, because everything in nature is already at peace. Everything in nature doesn't look for a better moment later. It's just us, the whole humanity. And it's such a misguidance, but everybody is in it, so we believe this to be true. So we become ambitious, we start all the power trips that are possible. If you just open the news and look from a different angle, you see just illusion and power trips, or mainly. So Lao-Tzu knew this already, and he was pointing to what he calls the Tao. And he starts with the Tao that can be spoken is not the real Tao, because the moment we address something, we create an object and a subject. And actually, who we are is the subject, is the space in which everything happens. Who we are is the consciousness in which everything happens. How many times do we overlook it? The moment we say, I see something, our attention is on the something, not even on the visual experience. But when we go back in, there's an I behind it. I experience the seeing of something. And when we translate that to everything in our day-to-day life, there's always that which we call I first. But we never inquire, what is this I? It's not a thing. It's not your achievements. It's not even your body. It's not your mind. It's not your sensations. It's not your feelings. Why can I say that? Because you say, I feel this. So the feeling is observed by I. Can you follow that? Can you relate to that? I hear this. The hearing is observed by the I. I touch. I know. This is even more tricky. Then we believe our thoughts. Anybody has beliefs? Every single belief, forgive me, but every single belief is a lie, because behind the belief is a doubt. So when we are born, we are one, and then very, very quickly there is right and wrong, good and bad, and we get fed with mental concepts that substitute the absolute mystery of who we are. And so when we have been seeking enough in the outside world, and when we have become enough successful in relationship and money, or total failures, which is probably better, then we come to a place where we relax for a moment. And the moment we relax, we look inside, we drop all ideas what should happen or should not happen, or who we should be or should not be. We are here. And everything is fine. So the last verse from last time we were together, Lao-Tzu spoke about what happens when we feed the person, when we feed the personality. Now there's nothing wrong in it. We all got fed by our parents, by our teachers, by society, by all these situations that could help us to distinguish the real and the false. But most of us are hooked with the false. So Lao-Tzu says, fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. How many times are we spilling because we're just full of concepts? COVID is fantastic about concepts. No? The people almost are at war, for vaccine, against vaccine. COVID is a lie, COVID is true. I mean, you just go into the internet and you get very, very confused because you feel you get all the messages, pro and contra, and it fills the mind. No? And it spills over into Facebook, into social media, into Twitter, and all these things. No? Keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt. No? If you do too much with your knife, you cannot cut anymore. Chase after money and security and your heart will never unclench. Can you relate to that? You lose money in the stock market, you lose your job through COVID, your income is halved. Maybe not here for the friends here, but it's all over the world. No? And as we are identified with money and job and success, this is a total failure. And the heart never unclenches. Chase after money and security and your heart will never unclench. Doesn't mean that money is wrong. It's good. We need it. No? We need to be intelligent with it, but it's not you. How often do we think money is me when the stock market goes down? People even kill themselves because they think they are the money. So if you lose money, you lose the self, and then you might as well die. Yeah? And then comes a massive one, because all the things that Lao-Tzu said before are there to get people's attention. If you're rich, maybe you think you get more attention, and money and love gets very confused, and maybe you feel more loved. No? If your knife is sharpened, which means if you're really witty and manipulative and cheating, maybe it feels like you're winning. No? And then he says, care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner. And unfortunately we educate our children like this. No? They do something really beautiful and they get all the praise. And this is what we need as a child. No? But we look for the praise today also. No? And when somebody praises you, you feel good. When somebody rejects you, you feel bad. And then we spend most of our life looking for approval and avoiding rejection. Who of us here is afraid of rejection? It's good to see through this. And the person who rejects you is also afraid of rejection. So the conclusion of Lao-Tzu is, do your work and then step back. That's the only path to serenity. Do whatever you do, because we are active people, we have skills that need to be expressed. But to create a sense of self from your achievements is clenching your heart. Step back, relax. Existence or the Tao holds you already. In Christianity you call it God. God is already taking care of you. So do your work and then step back. There's a Sufi story about the camel. You may have heard kind of that saying, like there was a Sufi master traveling with his disciple, and he kept telling his disciple, trust in Allah, everything is taken care of, you're carried. And they come to an oasis and spend the night, and the disciple forgets to tie the camels. And then he said, okay, he's already in the tent, it's so warm, and outside it's cold, so trust in Allah, Allah will keep the camels here. In the morning, the camels are gone. And the disciple said, but Master, you told me trust in Allah. And the Master said, well, trust in Allah, but tie your camels first. Yeah, because Allah doesn't have any other hands than yours. It is just when the I comes in that creates a sense of self through the action. The disciple could have tied the camel, not because that's what needs to be done, but to please the Master. Then probably the Master would have hit him. Look, Master, I tied the camels and they're still here. Am I good? Dun, 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 dun. No? Okay, these were the last verses from last time. But now he points to an important question. And when you hear these questions, the tendency of the mind is to create a new ideal, like a spiritual ideal. That's not what he's saying. He's simply asking, and maybe we can ask ourselves with this. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? What's the original oneness? If our attention is on thoughts, our attention is constantly wavering between good and bad and right and wrong and what to do and about the future and the past. No? Now, can you coax your mind from that wandering? And immediately he gives the solution. And keep to the original oneness. What's the original oneness? It is that which is witnessing every single moment in your life. Now, there's a few meditators here, and also for those of you who are online. And we even use meditation to get somewhere, to get more peaceful. But when we keep to the original oneness, means we just allow our attention on that formless, spacious, invisible, attributeless, witnessing consciousness. Can it ever go? No. It's like the space in this room. It simply holds you, but it has no agenda. And the original oneness is that. It's another name for the Tao. And then he asks, can you let your body become supple, as a newborn child? Which means, can you relax? Can you be loose and natural? This is the Tantra vision. Can you allow things to be without putting an ego structure onto it? That is when you're relaxed, when you're innocent, when your body is relaxed and supple. Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? So what is that light? That light is consciousness itself. That light is when our attention is not anymore on any object within, or without. Mind happens. It continues. Mind has its own agenda. Mind is like clouds drifting in the sky. Mind, feelings, all the things that create our personality are in a way obstructing our clear vision, obstructing that recognition that we are in our essence just awareness, just love, if you like. Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Now he takes this wisdom into relationship. Can you love people and lead them? That's tricky because the mind wants to be a leader, to hire somebody. That's not what he means. Can love be the guidance? I often, when I don't really know how to decide about anything, I ask myself, well, how would love act right now? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Then it's not really a leading, then it's inviting them into that deeper space that you provide as presence, which means can we be present to people? And the moment you will notice that when you're really present with somebody, the other also becomes more present because there's no energy going into the story. Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? That's great. What is the most vital matter? Relationship, buying a house, investing in the stock market, changing countries and moving somewhere else. Whatever is vital for you, how much are we kind of attached in our personality to a vital story? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? We all know what happens when we actually let go, when we have been struggling and then let go and then open up to the unknown, and suddenly things fall in place. Why is that? Because the divine or the Tao or existence or whatever you call it has their own wisdom, and it uses us to express itself. So we always think we are the doer, I am the doer, but actually it's always the Tao that does through us. When we come to that, we can relax. Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? That's quite just these verses are a wonderful challenge. Because anything the ego wants to do is the opposite. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep the original oneness? Well, we are so caught up in thinking. Can you let your body become subtle as a newborn child? Well, our heart is clenching and we are tight because we are afraid we may not manage the next moment. Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Have you actually seen that you are light? That light looks through you at things rather than the person. Then suddenly your third eye, which is often related to light, is just seeing what is. There's no need for interpretation. Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? That's for us control freaks. Just let it in for a moment. How could that happen? Especially, how could that happen in a relationship situation? When you have expectations that the other should be according to your wishes. Good luck. No? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? How come he says you understand all things? Because there's nothing to understand. There is just what is. And the moment we are not arguing anymore with what is, that part that feels as a strong sense of self disappears. And that's our biggest fear, that we are actually nobody. And then he continues, giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. This is what many religions try to teach us as a should, as a moralistic idea how things should happen. This is why it doesn't work. Christianity, with its 10 commandments, is a total failure in this regard. Because no religion has created so many wars than Christianity in the name of love and peace. Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing. That's a tricky one. No? When you own something, you take care of it, but can we also not possess it? And it gets more important in relationship. No? The whole the whole society works differently. It's like it wants you. Forgive me if you're married. There's nothing wrong. I was married too. But marriage is the opposite. It is creating a bond through which you begin to possess each other. Creating a bond that starts with love, but now when you're secure and you tie the knot, very often you see that it fails because the other doesn't follow your expectations. And then you try to control either yourself or the other. So leading and not trying to control, this is the supreme virtue. Having without possessing. Take a breath. And Lao-Tzu doesn't say you should be like that. He's just asking from a place where he is already aware and present to the infinite consciousness that he is. He's aware of his nothingness. Are we aware of our nothingness? And then he explains it a little bit more if we're kind of, strong-minded. We join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. For those of you who have been with me in the teachings of the map of the layers of the mind, it's like the personality with all its aspects and the rainbow of colors are surrounding the silent center. And all it needs is to have our attention to the silent center. Then we are like the center hole of the wheel that makes the wagon move. The center is still. This is why there's a beautiful meditation technique called whirling. And Rumi, the great Sufi poet Rumi, got enlightened through whirling. If you ever tried that, you whirl, you whirl, you whirl. Everything is moving. When you keep your eyes open, the whole world whirls around you, but there's a still center that doesn't move. The moment you fall out of the center, you get dizzy and you fall. Literally. No? We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. If we get this, that our deepest potential is the formless presence of who we are. It looks empty, but it's the source of every single gift we are here to share with the world. And it's a very different way of looking at things than striving to the max to reach, whatever we want to reach. Can we be empty and allow the source to work through us? No? We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. You can use this as an example. This room, the space in this room is here in the room, but also without that room. It is the walls that define the room, but it's the inner space in which we can live. It's the same thing for us inside. That which is witnessing, we can call the inner space. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. That is amazing. We work with being, so we pretend to be a person. We pretend that we are here as a separate unit that expresses the divine through this unique body-mind. But it is non-being that we use. That's very, very advanced. What he calls non-being, we could call it emptiness, we could call it silence, we could call it formless, we could call it space. Each time we say I when we talk about anything, we are referring to being on the surface. And when we allow ourselves to go deeper, we realize I have actually never existed. Is that too much? Yeah. And the interesting thing is when we look into the world and when we look into personalities, how much do we see how we try and fill the emptiness through all sorts of things, through our stories, through money, through relationships, through story, through suffering, through anything, just not to fall into nothingness. And only a few of us who, went deep enough in meditation had moments where it looked like nothing from outside. And it's as vast as the whole sky. It's as infinite as the space outside and inside. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. Are we overfed already? No? It's good, huh? Isn't it incredible? I mean, it's so fresh. It is so direct. No? Okay, 2 more verses. This is also something that, we learn in India, or the Indian masters talk about it, but it is very much misunderstood by the disciples. He says, colors blind the eye, the eye. Sounds deafen the ear. Flavors numb the taste. Thoughts weaken the mind. Desires wither the heart. Now that can be very much misunderstood. In India, the ascets, they try to fast forever. That's what the Buddha tried before he got enlightened. Or they deny the senses. So they especially, you're not allowed to look at beautiful women because you have to deny your senses. Sounds deafen the ear, so you're only allowed to listen to certain music, maybe best the chants of the mantras, otherwise, you're not on the right path. Flavors numb the taste, so you shouldn't taste, beautiful chocolate cake from Kendall, or yeah, like this is more in India. I think in the West it's not so strong to deny the sensory pleasures, because in one way it's true, we are object-oriented and we forget the space that we are. So colors blind the eye means light is pure, it has no color. And before we said, can I be the light? Can I be deeper than the rainbow colors? Because the rainbow colors are a reflection of the light that is behind us. We were traveling from Lismore today, and during the whole travel, these incredible rainbows. I don't know if you saw them today. Like one rainbow going with us all the time. And we get so fascinated. And of course we were also blinded because the attention goes there and we forget the seer. Then we are blind to the consciousness in which it happens. No? And it's of course alluring. There's nothing wrong in it. It's just, how I understand it, it's just to add the space in which the sensory experience happens. And then, so he goes through the 5 senses, but then he also says, desires wither the heart. Why is that? Because the heart in itself, in its essence, is already full of compassion and love. But the compassion and love is not personal. It is, the heart is just a passage for that. When you desire something, you're not in contact with that. You're kind of object-oriented and believe you're lacking something. So you're lacking presence in the heart, and the heart withers. And now comes a beautiful hint. And when he says the master, he means you and me. He means all of us. The master observes the world, but trusts his inner vision. We forget the inner vision when we are sensory, when we are hooked to the object of senses. But when we include the inner vision, then a beautiful color, for example, evokes happiness inside. And then instead of going to the color and making the color responsible for your happiness, the suggestion is trust your inner vision, trust the happiness that arises within. Because then you touch one of the many essential states that we carry, and one of them is happiness. The Master allows things to come and go. His heart is open as the sky. Hallelujah, here we are. It's not this great master outside that we can bow down and touch feet. It's a beautiful possibility until we recognize, wait a minute, that is who I am. Everything that I have experienced in life so far, in the level of form or experience, has come and has gone. Yeah? Childhood has come and is gone. Youth has come and is gone. For some of us, middle age has come and is gone. For some of us, old age is come.
Yeah.
Who knows when it goes? Yeah, but it will go. No? So, can we allow things? This was basically the deepest message of Ramana Maharshi. You know the story. I'm not going to tell the story again. But anyway, he was one of the great masters. He died in 1950, but his legacy is still very much there. Don't cling to that which comes and goes. Which means everything in our human experience comes and goes. What is it in us that doesn't come and go? And to give it a hint that it's not an object, he says his heart is open as the sky. The sky is not an object. Sky contains all objects. Witnessing witnesses all experience. It took me ages to understand this because my master Osho, he kept saying, be aware. So I tried to be aware. Next moment I forgot. Be aware when you walk. Try to be aware when I walk, 4 steps, and then I forgot. And then I felt like a complete failure. Eat consciously. Yes, it tastes much better. Be aware. 3rd bite, I forgot. So I was a complete spiritual failure. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm even aware that I forgot. That which is witnessing doesn't care what it witnesses, whether it witnesses forgetfulness. This is to comfort you a little bit if you forget something. That's just witnessed. You are never the object of witnessing. You're always that which witness. But because it's not a form, because it's open as the sky, we don't notice it. We don't realize it. We feel guilty. We feel like a failure in meditation. And if you go to the Zen master and you fall asleep, he hits you so that you wake up again and you believe something went wrong. I'm not doing it right. And the Zen master wants something completely different. It wants to stop all the doing. It reminds me, it's like many years ago, I had this kind of quite strong opening of my inner vision, and I visited a Zen master in Japan, and he had mainly Western disciples, and they were in a Vipassana retreat. So they started, I think, at 4 o'clock in the morning with meditation, sitting silently, and ended at 11 o'clock at night. And basically 1 hour sitting, then a little bit of Vipassana walking, conscious walking, then sitting and walking. And then the master gave them a koan, like an unsolvable riddle to help their mind to kind of totally get crunched up. So I ask him, Master, this is it's beautiful, I love meditation, but you are torturing these poor people. They're sitting more than 12 hours. And what I noticed is who we are is always here. It's like it doesn't get better through sitting. Why do you do this? Why do you torture this? He said, well, this is a tradition that has brought more people to enlightenment than anything else. And I said, but enlightenment is already here. He laughed and he said, yes. But they fry their mind sitting until, if we are lucky, there comes a moment where everything stops and they see what you're saying. So the situation of the long sitting and the being hit on the head or on the shoulder to wake up is just to create a situation where everything stops. And for some people, eventually something stops.
When you say stop, you mean surrender?
Sorry?
Surrender, you mean?
No, where the mind stops, where there's no more interpretation of whatever is happening, where there's no more struggle with your thoughts, where there is just the pure open sky. There's just no thing. But no thing is so uninteresting for the mind that when it just comes close to nothingness, it will find something to occupy itself with. So in a way, all meditation techniques, they are helpful to bring you to the wall. When there's no way, no escape, no way out, no way in, no success. It just, brings you to the end. But then it's not really the end. It is the end of you. It's the end of life the way you know it, but it's the beginning of an endless flowering, I would say. Because as we are in the body and as we have a body and a mind, we are also gifted with incredible gifts that want to grow and express themselves through us. How do we know this? Because each one of our minds gets attracted to certain things. Maybe some of you are musicians or painters or meditators or teachers or computer hackers or whatever your gifts are. The expression of the gift is not so important. It is allowing that which wants to live through you and surprise you. And then life becomes really an incredible journey, because every moment is more like a surprise of what is living right now. And you have that sometimes when you cannot think and you're very present, and all you realize is that you are actually not reacting to situations anymore, but you respond spontaneously without even knowing how or what you would do until you do it. We all know this, no? Spontaneous expressions. Often this expression happens, in extreme situations. If you're just before an accident and your body responds rather than reacts and saves you. And this is so thrilling, and you're so present that people begin to chase these situations where they can be more and more present. And some of the people are just doing very crazy things just to be present. Like the guy who climbed El Capitan, I don't know if you saw that movie, solo. It's almost 1,000-meter vertical wall that I think the first time it was climbed, they took a week with ropes and all this stuff. And this guy, he went, I think, 20 times with ropes, and then he knew every little step by heart, and he went without a rope, without security, without anything. In a few hours, he climbed through the whole wall and met some people on the top, like some tourists, and they said, they thought he's also a tourist that just walked up. And asked him, where did you come from? Oh, I just climbed up here. No? But his life was hanging on one little finger. One little mistake and he's dead. But that brings you so close to life. That makes you so present. This is the attraction to these dangerous sports. But we can also sit here and be present. Very good. I think that's it with Lao-Tzu today. We have a lot of things to digest. So a little reminder, the master, which is you, observes the world but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go, and his heart is open like the sky. For those of you who have been with me before, you remember I love arasoma, so I always kind of bring a little bit of a fragrance and a vibrational essence into the topic. No? The heart is open like the sky, a green quintessence. Green is connected to the heart. And this is a light green, which means there is light in the heart. And the interesting thing is that quintessence from arasoma is called the Holy Grail. You know the story of the Holy Grail a little bit? Basically, it's a story of King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table. They were really good warriors and they protected the country. They were really very much loyal to the king, King Arthur. And then somebody got the idea, forgive me, that's not historical, this is my interpretation, how I understand it. Then somebody got the idea that there is the Holy Grail somewhere to be discovered, and that is the chalice that Jesus used for the Last Supper, and whoever owns or possesses the Holy Grail, has infinite powers, and the kingdom will be more at peace. But the kingdom was already at peace. So how the mind goes, they hear a story that takes them into something better, into the future. So he sends his soldiers, his knights out in search for the Holy Grail in all different directions. Now, they are all interested in finding something that nobody knows what it is, and lose the presence, so they cannot defend the kingdom, and the kingdom gets overrun. Because they're not present anymore. They kind of go after an idea. This is very often what we do when we go after enlightenment. Same thing. We go to India. I mean, I don't want to miss it at all, but we do all sorts of crazy things to look for something that has always been here. The heart is open like the sky. The Holy Grail being found in the core of your heart is the depths of opening in space. Shall we try this? It's a little ritual for you. So if you could stand up, make your left wrist available. And this is kind of vibrational medicine to support you to tune to the inner sky of your heart. And when you receive it, rub it into your wrists. Close your eyes. And let it be like a tuning fork for an inner space. And if you follow us online, just imagine a beautiful light green essence on your wrists. And then you can raise your arms high above the head. Imagine you're growing wings from the core of your spine to your fingertips. And then you can open and close your wings above the crown, crossing over at the midline of the body. And as you open your wings, open to the infinite outer sky. As you close your wings, embracing the inner sky. It's as vast as the outer sky. It's just pure space. And feel that your essence is as vast as the empty sky. And then you can open and close your wings around the third eye, the forehead center. In the opening, drawing the curtain of your identifications. Anything you thought you are, let it open. Let it reveal the non-being, the infinite sky. And in the embracing that capacity to see reality as it is. When there's no label, no interpretations, then there's no identification. You cannot make a sense of self through what you see. You just see what is. And the seer is as open as the sky. And then embracing your throat. And in the opening, drawing the curtain of all your beliefs. Everything we believe is borrowed. In the embrace, embracing the not knowing, that space of spontaneous creativity that arises from not knowing, from nothingness. And then when we come to the heart, there's another curtain to open, the curtain of all shoulds, of all ideals, how we should be, and their shadow, how we should not be. And in the embrace, embracing the clear sky of the heart, that innocence, that deep openness. And then you can rest with your palms over your heart for a moment. Feeling your heart respond to that light green quintessence. That's where the Holy Grail has been waiting patiently to be uncovered as the infinite sky. And a deep breath and opening your wings around the solar plexus. In the opening, imagine you can lay down all your armor, all your weapons, all your strategies of separation, all your need to compare, to compete, to judge, to blame, all the power trips. Let them go. And in the embracing your uniqueness, embracing the strength of being yourself. Consciousness has taken form through this body that is absolutely unique in the whole existence. There's no one like you in the whole universe. And the joy of it as we acknowledge that. And then when we come to the second chakra, to the lower belly, in the opening all these hidden hurts and wounds that we may unconsciously carry, that we have derived a sense of self from. Just allow them to open to the wind, to the rain, to the light, to the presence. And in the embracing your deep sensitivity, your vulnerability, your tenderness, your capacity to see, to feel, to smell, to taste, to touch. And then the first chakra, in the opening to that life energy that is flowing through your whole body and keeps you alive. And in the embracing this body as your temple, the sacred form. The divine doesn't have any other form to express itself than through you. This is how important we are. And along the legs, all the way down, connecting with Mother Earth. And this is a good moment to let go completely. Let go of everything you know, of thought, of feelings, of sensations, of story. Just dare to run empty, to become completely empty. And notice what is here when everything that you thought you are is gone. And now as you come up, you can unwind your wings around each other in a backward spiral. It's like symbolically unwinding any residues of the holding fibers of the mind. And for a moment, standing with your arms, your wings open, this being of light that LaoTzu speaks about. And then you can bring your palms together, your wrists close to your nostrils, and taking 3 deep breaths of this fragrance into the temple of the body. Very good. And then we can sit. So I'd like to dedicate the light of the candle tonight to the heart that is open like the sky. and a meditation. I think we have used enough words, so we're just going to sit silently and whatever words have been a pointer for you, don't cling to the words. Follow the pointer within. Perhaps as we sit silently, we may be more and more aware of that which witnesses everything. And a little hint, as our sense of self is often defined through our story, through our experiences. As we're sitting silently, allow each out-breath to be a let go deeper. If you like, you can use the heart as a doorway, but we could go through any chakra, through any form, to find what is deeper than form, what is deeper than all experience. So without seeking, we're just sitting silently. And sometimes we remember there's a witnessing space that is always here in the background, that is unconcerned of the content that is witnessed. And we're going to sit for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Enjoy. this peace. We didn't do anything for it to emerge. It is who we are. Feel this inner space, the silence. It's been here, sometimes just hidden through sound. Feel this presence. What LaoTzu calls the Tao, or consciousness. Just imagine in a moment when we move a little bit more to the surface, into body awareness, into breath awareness, into the remembering that consciousness has a body. So when we come back, we can bring with us that infinite sky. It's almost like when we have been deep in the ocean and we come to the surface, we may become aware of the waves on the surface. But the depths of the ocean is always here. So we can take a deeper breath, gently becoming aware of the body again, maybe moving the body a little bit. And another deep breath, finding a good moment to open your eyes to a new moment here. Perhaps a good stretch. Feeling like we have touched the source, and it's so rejuvenating, like after a long sleep. We've been sitting a little longer because there's no time. In the now there is no time. in the here. We're just here. But we have a few minutes for anything you would like to share or any question, or also when you're online and you have something you want to comment or ask, feel free. Steve is here. He will read your comment or question, and perhaps there's something that brings up an answer. And if you're here in person and you have anything to say, you can come with me here, so I'm not the only one speaking. Yes.
I'm here to twist your arm.
Hi, brother. Come a little closer. Twist my arm.
You told me before Satsang you had some news. And then you wouldn't tell me the news. So now, I ask you.
I didn't say there's any news.
Really?
She said there's news.
Then she needs to sit here.
No, but you see, you became curious.
I did.
Hmm?
I did become curious. Is this news to share or not for now?
And I told the girls that in Germany there's a saying, the wise enjoys and keeps quiet.
I'm not very wise.
No, but I keep quiet.
oh, I see. Okay. Very good. Okay.
If the news wants to be shared, it will happen.
But we're sitting in truth.
Isn't it? You know, this is such a beautiful trick. You know, if you look into Osho's books and the titles of Osho's books, so what has kind of attracted me most? The Secret. Huh?
Oh, he has a book called The Secret.
Yeah, well, it's actually a huge book. It's the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, where Osho talks about Shiva offering to his beloved Parvati or Shakti the 112 meditation techniques that are the base of every meditation. And the mind gets so intrigued with the content of these techniques. But when you read a little bit more, every so-called technique is just another pointer to that which is aware. But the hook is the secret, because the mind wants to know the secret. And when it's not revealed, then it appears that whoever holds the secret knows more than the one that wants to know it. Right? Because that's what the mind wants. Because then we have a story. Don't don't think there's anything wrong with story. It's very entertainment. It's entertaining. But I sense a certain cheekiness arising within me that wants to keep you dangling a little bit.
Get up there. If I'm meant to know, it'll come out. All right, we have a question.
We have a question. Good. You see, these things bring up questions. If I would have told you, there would be no question.
Lydia?
Yes.
Or we're.
Lydia.
Can you talk about surrender and spiritual bypassing?
Well, that's 2 long satsangs, I would say.
Yeah.
Where surrender is something that we have been misunderstanding a lot, especially in the West, the ego. You know, when I heard Osho talk about surrender, I didn't like it at all. I thought you have to kind of give up your identity and, give your power to somebody outside of you. That was my understanding of surrendering to the Master. But surrender in itself is exactly what LaoTzu talked about. It is allowing what is. Now, is that difficult? What is already. as we allow it, the allowing itself is a space where we don't label anything anymore, we don't have any, we don't need to take any sides, we don't need to argue with what is. It is just a total space of acceptance, which is actually our nature. Our nature is surrender. We didn't decide consciously from our ego to be born. I mean, if there are some people that kind of think maybe we have chosen our parents and we have chosen this lifetime, probably in the attempt to create a me that is in power of how we choose our destiny. But surrender is letting existence live through you. And you will notice in your life when moments of surrender happen. And the easiest way to surrender is, of course, when you fall in love, when you have a new love that you just let go into, and there is no expectations, no need to possess, no manipulation, no goal, no agenda. You're just here, and the lover becomes a door to love what is. That's how I see surrender. Surrender is every moment. Can we allow this moment to be what it is? Surrender is awakening. I remember Bhagwan from the Oneness University said it in a way. He had the saying, when the impossibility of change strikes you, you're free. Which means when you realize that the little me is just trying to have an agenda to continue existing as a separate entity, which is an illusion. Because your inner, this is about the inner world, your inner world, your inner state is already what it is. If you're sad, you're sad. If you want to change the sadness, you suffer. If you're angry, you're angry. If you follow the shoulds, you should not be angry, and listen to the voices outside, then you try either to be more angry or you fight. But if you surrender to anger, then anger is already held in the spaciousness of your being. And the moment it is allowed for what it is, it doesn't mean it needs to be expressed on somebody. It is just, it's an inner experience. When it is absorbed in you, when you surrender to the fire within, anger changes, it becomes vitality. Sadness changes, it becomes your depth. Fear allowed, surrendered to fear, becomes joy, becomes love. If we just would understand this. We are afraid and then we fight it. Fear is just a cloud passing that is already absorbed in the inner sky. If you absorb it, the power of it changes into a life expression. That's surrender. Now it's easier to surrender to pleasant moments than to fear and sadness and rage. But it's the same thing. If you don't choose, if you don't label, if you don't have any preferences, if we don't put labels on experience, they're just expressions of life. And surrender is to allow life to happen. I'm reminded of my Tantra teacher, Kavisha. She was a wise woman. She had these little sayings everywhere, little stickers on the wall, on the fridge, on the door. And one of the stickers said, "Let yourself happen." That's surrender. Let the other happen. That's also surrender. It's more difficult, isn't it? Especially your partner. Let things happen. Everything is already happening. No? Now, can you imagine you allow that state in the face of COVID, in the face of vaccination or no vaccination, when you don't take sides for or against, right and wrong, good and bad, high and low, intelligent and stupid. That's what we do. Surrender is allow what is. And as it is, a response may arise. The response from surrender is always the wisdom of the whole, of the Tao, of existence. Reaction is always a reaction of our separate personality that thinks it knows better, that wants to create a sense of self through being for or against. You just watch, whatever endless conflicts are there about how to treat or not treat COVID. But this is just one example. So that is about surrender, and what was the other thing?
Spiritual bypassing.
Spiritual bypassing is taking what LaoTzu said and what I tried to share and make a knowledge out of it, which means an accumulation of stuff in your mind that then believes that you know the infinite, and preach it to other people. And it's interesting, especially when somebody is new on the journey. You know how it feels when somebody comes to you spiritual, we feel inside, okay, there is a certain truth in that because, it's what the sages say. And yet when the truth is not resonating with the being that speaks it, it becomes spiritual bypassing and it feels yucky. It feels cringy. It feels, it feels priesty. And of course the ego, if we have a trace of ego left, the ego wants to kind of tear this down, which is of course then the same thing. For that, a master is very helpful. I remember Osho was, we were in the commune in Pune. There were these therapists, and Osho played the trick on us that everyone was supposed to kind of dress in maroon robes, and the therapists had black robes, so that everybody can see how important I am and how spiritual I am. And I am a course leader here. And he played with us very much. So when the ego of the course leader really became big and the courses were filling and the success of being a great course leader kind of came into your ego, and talk about myself right now, then at a certain point the master was ready to cut your head. And that is the most graceful and incredible thing. There was one moment one of the most incredible processes was just developed by one of my teachers, and which was what's called the power group, cutting through power trips. And we actually developed it together, but he was kind of the mastermind in it. And the power group, like many courses that ran through the Pune commune, were like a new fashion, and the power group was the fashion. And I was a very ambitious therapist at the time, and when I had participated in the power group, I thought, this is it. This is a super process. I want to lead that one. So I went to my teacher who was running it and said, it may be very ambitious, but I think this is a fantastic course. I know it's ambition, but I would love to lead that. And he was a very compassionate guy. He said, yes, okay, you lead the next one. And that was very important. I had 80 people in the course and 40 people of the mystic ring holding the space. And it was a fantastic group. I was running it many times. And my ego was quite inflated around this, because this is this is the thing to do. So the spiritual commune was, of course, the best spiritual marketplace. And then one day, I put my head on the, how you call that, the shafot?
Chopping block?
The chopping block, yeah. I wrote Osho, I said, I feel very, very, very present and meditative when I lead courses. Is that an illusion, or is that actually true meditation? I was asking for it. And Osho, at the time my name was still Fritjof, no? He read the question, and his answer was Fritjof, long pause. The whole 3,000 people were already laughing. Theoretically speaking, you're a great therapist. I saw it coming, and everybody was already screaming of laughter. But you know, and I know, and everybody else knows that in reality, things are a little bit different. And then he began to tell us a story about a dog, the master dog. Master dog in a village had many disciples. And the master dog was trying very, very arduously to stop the other dogs from barking, especially on full moon. So the full moon was approaching, and the dog was preaching to his dogs, you remember, if you love me, you don't bark at full moon. And then the full moon came, and the master dog was already cruising around the corners of the streets, watching if he finds any dog barking, and it was silent, because the dogs had come together before and said, we love our master so much, so tonight we're not going to bark. We're going to just hide in the darkest corner of the village, and we're not going to bark. He will be so happy. So the master dog walked around and was ready to preach, and there was no barking. And then he came across a bend behind a house, and he saw the full moon, and great barking happened. And then, he really prolonged that story endlessly, and I was kind of shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. He said, okay, hammer away, cut away, it's okay. And, he was basically addressing all the therapists that think they are special, and it was very good. So that is, well, is it spiritual bypassing? Yes and no. I mean, I thought I know, and of course I didn't know. So when the moment you think you know, you're already spiritually bypassing. Because how can you know? And yet, this is always a puzzle, you know. When you see that everything that you see in others is also you. You become a little bit more benevolent with this world. And you know, when I hear myself say this, then of course there's also a part that judges, and a part that labels, and a part that, you know, has its own opinions about things, which is good. You know? But deep down, if we can just, this is the invitation I can offer. Deep down, if we can remember, even in fragments, that which is aware, and allow our attention, when there is a choice, often there is no choice, but when there is a choice, to take our attention to that space in which everything is happening, then the intensity of experience relaxes into gratitude for life. So I feel, you know, when gratitude appears, then it's kind of a good sign. So gratitude. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my rambling. Thank you for sharing the space. Now, it's interesting. The last two satsangs I had announced and reminded people, and nobody came. Today I didn't say anything, and I thought nobody comes. Because it doesn't really matter. I just enjoy this. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. And there will be satsang next Friday, and you're very welcome. Unless there's a super total extreme, you know, lockdown, and Byron is flooded with COVID. It's going to happen. And we
still have satsang.
yeah.
Remote.
We still, I will still have satsang, and you can go online. I will write you, and you can go
Be
online.
virtually there.
Yeah.
You'll be virtually there.
I will be virtually there, yeah. Which is in a way quite good, because, you know, who is speaking? It's a little machine somewhere in Europe that speaks to you. So it's very impersonal, which is very good. So have a beautiful rest of the evening. We do have hot water, and Steve can give you a little tea if you like. Otherwise, have a safe trip home, and we see you soon. Next Friday. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for being with us here online. Namaste.